OSC Whitmore U.S. History students. I'm going to be introducing our new unit, which is going to be on the American Revolution. In this unit, we're going to be studying the causes of the Revolution, the Revolutionary War itself, and then the aftermath of the Revolution with the creation of the Articles of Confederation, and then ultimately with the U.S. Constitution and what that looked like, the creation of our government. In this unit, we're going to be looking at a lot of different people and personalities. We're going to be looking at a lot of different events, and we're going to study the skill of causation. So let's talk about that next. Okay, our skill for this unit is the skill of causation. When we're talking about causation, we're not just talking about one event happened and the next event happened, or one thing happened on the same time as another thing happened. That's correlation. So let me give you an example of correlation. If it's sunny outside and I'm walking down the sidewalk and I trip up, I could say it's sunny outside. So when it's sunny, I have a greater chance of tripping on the sidewalk. We know that's not true. We have enough experience to know that's not true, but that would be correlation. And some people use correlation to try to prove, to try to use as evidence in an argument. That's a poor argument to say one thing happened, therefore it led to another thing. Sunshine happens, therefore I trip up on the sidewalk. No. Now, in the case of something happening over and over and over, or we have multiple pieces of evidence, then we can look deeper and say, okay, maybe that is causation. Maybe one event did lead to the next event. And that's ultimately what we want to do in history. Now, I use an example here from college football. This is on the left is the 2019 recruiting rankings. This is the rankings of the teams that got the best players, according to experts, the teams that got the best players in 2019. Right there at the top, Georgia. They said Georgia got the best recruiting class that year. They got the best players in 2019. So we move ahead 4 years later to 2023, and we see on the right image, Georgia won the national championship. Actually, that's the SEC championship, but they also won the national championship. So Georgia won the national championship 4 years after they finished at the top of the recruiting rankings. Now, if I just leave it there, that could just be correlation. But if I actually dig deeper and I look at the champion the year before, and the year before that, and the year before that, and every time I look at the champion, when I go back in the recruiting rankings, if that champion consistently has finished at the top of the recruiting rankings, now I've got something that's evidence that shows me there is a causation factor here. There is a cause and effect. Finishing at the top of the recruiting rankings helps lead to championships. Is that the only thing that leads to championships? No. That's where we look at multiple pieces of evidence. That's where we look at, does the coach factor in who wins championships? Does the money spent by the school on the football team lead to championships? Spoiler alert, it does. Does the size of the stadium lead to championships? Does the passion of the fan base lead to championships? Does luck play a role in championships? So all of those things would be things we look and try to discover if those are causes of championships. Some of them will be and some of them won't be. That's what we do in history as well. We're looking not just for correlations, something happened and then something else happened. We're looking for causation. Did it, in fact, help cause the next event? Sometimes we have evidence to prove that, and sometimes we don't. If we don't have evidence, we don't want to use that as evidence. We don't want to use that as something that we say led to the next event. We're going to be doing the American Revolution in this unit. So, what we're looking for are what are the turning points what are the key turning points and events that led to America actually revolting from the mother country of Great Britain? And that's what we're going to do in our project in this unit. Now, our project for this unit is going to be a speech or an essay. You're going to have the choice to either write an argumentative essay or deliver an argumentative speech about the three most important or significant turning points leading to the American Revolution. So you're going to choose 3 turning points that led to the American Revolution. Now, I give you some possible turning points that you can use. I'll read those examples. The Enlightenment ideals from Locke and Montesquieu. In other words, the idea that government's job is to protect our rights, that government gets its power from the people. Those are Enlightenment ideals. It comes from John Locke and Montesquieu and other philosophers. The Stamp Act would be a possible turning point. Sons of Liberty and the chant no taxation without representation. The Townshend Act, the Boston Massacre, the Boston Tea Party, Intolerable Acts, the First Continental Congress. And these are things you're going to be learning about in the lessons for this unit, by the way. So it's not going to come out of nowhere. You're going to learn about these things. And you can use these or you can use others that are not listed here provide as evidence, as long as you provide evidence that they helped lead to the American Revolution. Remember, our skill is causation. So in your essay or in your speech, whatever you use, you have to be able to prove that that turning point was significant. And I want you to choose the 3 that you think are the most significant. So don't just choose one that helped lead to the American Revolution. Choose the 3 that you believe were most significant in leading to the American Revolution. Now, the required information, so one thing you need to know is your essay's got to be at least 5 paragraphs. So at least 5 paragraphs. Your speech has to be at least 5 minutes long. So if you do an essay, 5 paragraphs at least. If you do a speech, at least 5 minutes. Your essay or speech must make a clear claim that 3 turning points are more significant than the other turning points. So you have to actually claim very clearly that these 3, whichever 3 you choose, these 3 turning points were more significant in leading to the revolution than the other ones were. You must provide evidence to support your claim. Now, where does that evidence come from? The evidence must come from it. You must use the Declaration of Independence as part of your evidence. So you must find evidence in the Declaration of Independence. And then you need to use at least one other primary source to support your argument. So you got to use the Declaration, you got to find evidence in the Declaration, and then you need to use at least one other primary source. Now you can use more than that, but you got to use at least one other primary source. And I give you some possible sources you can use. Thomas Paine's pamphlet Common Sense, Patrick Henry's speech where it was the give me liberty or give me death speech. That's what he said at the end. The Boston Massacre painting by Paul Revere. It actually is a propaganda piece that shows what he says the Boston Massacre looked like. Hint and spoiler alert, it didn't actually look like that, but that's what he said it looked like. The Virginia Declaration of Rights, the Join or Die political cartoon. These are things you'll learn about in the lessons, or you can research on your own. But you can use any one of these, or 2 or 3, or you can find your own primary sources. So it may be something not listed here that you want to use. That's fine as well. But you got to use 2. One's got to be the Declaration, and one's got to be some other primary source to use. You're going to find evidence in those sources to use to justify your 3 most important turning points leading to the American Revolution. Now, some questions to help guide your thinking. Which turning points led to the biggest change in colonist attitude towards the British government? Because ultimately, in order to have a revolution, the colonist attitude towards the mother country, Britain, had to change. So, which of those turning points led to the biggest change in their attitude? So that's one question you need to think of when you're thinking, all right, which ones were the most significant? Well, which ones led to the colonists changing their mind? And then the second is which sources are most helpful in demonstrating that change in attitude. So when you're choosing your sources, of course, the Declaration is one, you got to choose. But when you're choosing your other source or sources, think which sources am I most able to prove that the colonist attitude changed? And then in the lesson, which by the way, this project will come at the end of the unit. So this is something you can be thinking about and actually working on throughout the unit, but then you'll have a lesson at the end of the unit where you will actually do this project. In that lesson, submit your essay as a Word or PDF document Or if you do the speech, submit your video, your speech video as an MP4 video. Now, that's the project. And of course, you're going to learn about this along and along. And at any point, if you're confused about something in the project, you can, of course, reach out to, if I'm your teacher, Mr. Cannon, you can reach out to me. If you have another teacher, then reach out to whoever that teacher is. The rubric for the project. So how do I actually earn my grade on this project? You want to be able to go through these and check off, did you do these things? So in order, you're looking at 100 because that's what you want. So when you're looking at 100, did you evaluate the impact of these turning points and draw conclusions about their significance? So did you actually evaluate why these turning points were significant? And did you draw conclusions about their significance? Did you claim which turning points had the most impact on changing the colonists' attitude toward Great Britain? If you do your speech or your essay correctly, you will actually have a claim as to which turning points had the most impact. Then you're going to provide evidence from multiple sources that justify the significance of that turning point. So you can't just make the claim, you then have to also provide evidence that proves, helps support your claim. By the way, that's what argument is. An argument isn't just your opinion. This is not an opinion essay. This is not an opinion speech. This is an argumentative speech. And arguments, unlike opinions, require proof. It requires evidence to back up your argument. That's what an argument is. It has evidence to back it up. If you're just giving your opinion, that's not an argument. I believe this. That's not an argument. I believe this, and here is why, and giving evidence from sources, that is an argument. And then, of course, to get 100, you got to have at least 5 paragraphs for the essay or at least 5 minutes in your speech. Then you go all the way back and see, well, what's the minimum I do to get a passing grade? Well, it says it there for the 60 points. If you don't do 5, if you did 2 paragraphs or 2 minutes, but we don't even want to worry about the 60 points. We want to worry about the 100 points. We want to know how to get the maximum grade, and that's how you do it. So this is your rubric. Now, at any point, if you have questions, please, like I said, reach out to me or reach out to whoever your teacher is, and we'll be happy to help you with this. This is something that we're introducing now, but you will see the actual rubric and the actual lesson, the end of the unit. That's where you work on it. If you want to work on it before that, you're welcome to. You can be working on it leading as you do each lesson. If you're like, oh, in this lesson I learned about this, and that's something I want to use in my speech or in my essay, feel free to go ahead and start working on it. But the lesson itself will be at the end of the unit. I know you're going to do a great job, and reach out to me if you need any help. Have a great day.